Welcome to this webinar. Today we're talking about self-diagnose your customer success. I'm Johan Nilsson and I'm the founder and CEO of Start Deliver. You will get all the material from this webinar. You will get the recording, you will get the presentation. We will also share some more stuff that you can work with post-webinar. I love to get questions, so you can post them in the Q&A tab in Zoom, but you can also, of course, always reach me on my phone, my mail, or LinkedIn. So don't hesitate to reach out. Every week, every month, we talk with hundreds of customer success teams, managers, and sometimes they are in what we call the whirlwind. And this is when you have a lot on your table, you get things from everywhere, and you're just trying to cope with everyday actions. And usually you get drained doing this. And especially when you're looking at how can we improve, what's the next step for us? When you're in the whirlwind, it's very hard to do that. So the aim with this, the goal with this webinar is to help you get out of this whirlwind. And to do that, we have this self-assessment framework. And the assessment is 3 parts, and we'll go through them today. We will also share an example on how to do this. The first part is on my business. The second is on my priorities, and the last one is on my actions. And this can be both from a perspective of being a head of a customer success organization, but it can also be for you as a CSM heading up a customer portfolio. So some things will apply more on a management level, some will apply more on a customer success manager level. And this framework we have built around 10 questions. So we will go through this in detail, but just to give you an overview, we will start with my business. What business are we in? What stage are we in? What season are we in? How do we go to market? So we'll start with the big picture. Then we'll move into how is business going? How is my portfolio doing? What are health metrics? How do we set goals? What are the key processes that we have or the ones we need? So we're coming into, we're zooming in, we're getting more down to my business and how it's going. And of course, what I want to improve on. And the last part here is my actions. So this is where we go from, this is how we move forward from here. What are my prioritizations? What can I do with my planning, with my scheduling, with my capacity to improve? And we will also share with you a way of implementing these improvements in what we call the success sprints. And when you have done this, the goal here is to move you into a better state, move you out of the whirlwind and into happy days in customer success. So starting off with the first thing. So what business are we in? I think this is a great question. It's of course very simplistic, and maybe your answer is yes, we're a SaaS company, we sell CRM, we sell ERP, we sell e-sign, whatever the business you're in. But what we need to answer, or what question we really need to ask ourselves is this one: what business are we really in? Because this is of course what the value we provide. So are we helping customers grow? Are we helping customers save euros, save money? Are we helping them reduce risk? I mean, this is nothing new for you. You know about these things, but I think it's really good to remind ourselves on what business are we really in? And from a customer success point of view, this is of course where we start. This is where we want to talk with our customers about what is their desired outcome. And we want to drill down on if they want to grow, how is it they want to grow, and how can our product help them grow? Or if it's saving cost, how can we help them save cost? In what way can we help them save cost? So first principle, customer success is about helping customers achieve their desired outcome through the relationship with us. This is Lincoln Murphy's definition. I think it's the best one around. So that's a little bit how business, what business are we in? But then very important also part in this is where are we? And this is an overview of stages in a business, in a SaaS business or a tech business, where you basically have in the beginning of time, you have some sort of a minimum viable product, where you move into a product market fit, into a growth stage, and maybe in a maturity stage. And then you perhaps add more product lines, you acquire other companies that complement your product, and you have another growth, hopefully. So where you are in this in these stages, life cycle of a company stages, is really important to realize as well, or think about, and also where are we going? So if you're in the early stages, maybe you have issues with the product, maybe all the work with customer success is about getting them going with whatever you have. But as you grow, as time goes, you should start be moving up. You should start adding more things. You should be able to expand, and probably you have other priorities as well. We will get back to this when we look at my priorities and how this impacts where we prioritize. Another thing is, of course, also what kind of model are we working with here? Do we have a freemium model? Do we target small, medium-sized companies? Are we in mid-market, or are we enterprise? So depending also where you are in your go-to-market and what type of customer you target will also impact how you work with customer success. And also maybe you're moving here. Maybe you started off as for small, medium-sized businesses, but you're moving into mid-market or enterprise. That will also have make a difference in how you set up your customer success. Third thing here is also in the go-to-market model is how do you price your product? This is a study from the US, but on companies across the globe, SaaS companies. How do they price? The most common one is still seats, but as you can see, there's several ways to price your product, and this will also have an impact, of course, on how you set up your customer success. So, with this said, we'll go back to these the first part. How is my business assessment, basically? So, what business are we in? What stage are we in? And how do we go to market? And here I'm just going to share an example where we're a business doing a prospecting CRM, and we help companies grow faster. We're in the product market fit stage, but we're heading into a growth stage. We started off with small, medium companies, but now we're heading into enterprise, and we price our product based on users, but we have several add-ons. So this is very good foundation to understand prioritization as we move into that one. And if we just look at this example, of course, heading into a growth stage, you will get even more customers coming in. You will need to increase the team, and you probably have even more expansion potential here since you have these add-ons. So these are some like insights you can get from this my business assessment, looking at this example. Moving into the next part here is how is business? So we know what business we're in, but how is business going? Again, back to this study. When you're talking a subscription business, net revenue retention is like the the North Star, right? This is what everybody's talking about, from the board to the management team, and of course, customer success is very much into charge, control of this KPI. We have a direct impact on this KPI, and we need to understand, where do we sit here? This is again 350 SaaS companies where the median is 102%. Several companies, of course, above 100%. Several companies below 100% net revenue retention. And what this means is that if you're above, you will continue to grow on the existing customer base without adding new customers. So that's a very strong thing, of course. And if you're below, you will eventually die unless you add more customers, new customers. And so, how is business going? And here you need to look at your own portfolio. If you're a customer success manager, if you're responsible for the whole team or the whole organization, you need to look at the whole customer base. Where do we suffer at the moment? Is it churn? Is it too low expansion? Is it advocacy? And again, this can vary a lot depending on what stage you're in. And the next thing here is, of course, also to identify, okay, where do we have the potential here? Maybe we have low churn, but we also have very poor adoption of the platform. So either that will turn into churn eventually, or we could turn that into expansion by adding add-ons, services, other things to the platform. Or maybe it's advocacy. We are not working at all with that, getting promoters and into our platform. So very, very important things to identify. If we start with churn, there are some things that you need to look at that actually can be more of a company problem rather than a customer success team problem. If you have issues with a broken product that in some parts are not working, or if you bring in the wrong type of customers that are not able to be successful with your product. And again, this can depend on stage. Maybe in the early days, we were unsure what's a good fit for our platform or our product, and we brought in some bad fit customers. Maybe in the early days also we had some issues with the product, but as you mature, as you enter new stages, these things need to be fixed, or you will have churn issues that you can't solve, basically. So some things you need to fix upstream, but other stuff depends on how are we working, and what are we prioritizing. So in this sense, you need to look at, are we looking at churn figures, then we're looking backwards, or are we looking at health data, which are telling us more, where are we going? And I think customer health is something that a lot of companies struggle with. They overwork this, or they lack it. So I'll share, since this is our field, so I'll share some insights there. Good indicators, and I think we should aim to simplify things here. So product usage, of course, how active are they? Are they using your product? Are they using all the parts of your product? How active are they? That's one part of a good indicator, of course. Another even stronger indicator is if you can measure outcomes. So are they increasing the number of leads? Are they signing more customers? Are they completing more surveys? Are they getting more deals won, or whatever it can be, conversions, or and so on. The outcomes are, of course, the strongest thing here that relates to the value of your platform. So that's a great thing to measure, of course. The trend, how is this developing, up or down? I think it's really key as well. You can add more things, but usually we try to overcomplicate this instead of having some really good ones that we can follow and work with on a day-to-day basis. And of course, you need to be data driven here. You need to have real data on how customers are doing. It cannot be gut feel, or you have to ask around. You need to have this data visible, actionable, ready to go. So some good indicators, things are going well, but of course, as we discussed churn earlier, risk indicators. If we want to fix things from a customer success point of view, we need to find good indicators of risk. And again, here we can look at usage, of course. If they're not logging in at all, we know it's a risk, of course, but it can also be that they have a usage behavior that is at risk. It would be a risk because it's not they're not getting enough value from the platform. Again, outcomes, too little, too low, negative trend. Also, of course, risk indicators that things are not going well. And you need to get these as soon as possible, of course, when health changed on a customer, if it goes from good to red, from green to red or similar, you want to pick up on that signal as soon as possible. So to have to assess where you stand with your portfolio, you need to be able to segment, of course, your different customers in your portfolio, both on commercial side, like ARR and potential ARR, but you need to also have a good visual on where are you in health with the customer, because that's the forward-looking indicator telling you if you're on a good path or if you're on a bad path, and you will have an increase in your churn. This goes the same for expansion as well. Customers doing well with your platform, they should be introduced to more things. So the health metric is both an indicator for reducing churn, but it's also an indicator for setting yourself up for expansion in your platform. Another thing you need to assess is, of course, the life cycle stage of your customer. And talking life cycle stages, that can also be something that we overcomplicate, or we get stuck in this how sales work with stages. Onboarding is a very clear stage, both the initial onboarding, of course, but then you can also have onboarding that is after they have made an add-on to your platform. It can also be after onboarding, of course, you have adoption stage, you have an initial one, but then you can have as many as you have expansion or next stages in your product. Then you have an engagement stage where probably most customers are. And then sometimes people talk about expansion and renewal as stages, but those are not really stages. Those are things we drive. Renewal should not even be a thing if we do things right. It's just part of the process that we need to keep track of our agreements. So some considerations around life cycles there. What we need to think about to assess what we should focus on from our side is, of course, milestones and metrics for these stages. And we should also assess, do we need specialists in these different life stages? For instance, onboarding, maybe expansion in some cases, depending on also, again, where are you, what stage are you in with your company? Then, of course, and I think this is a big difference between working in sales with stages, in life cycle stages in customer success. They change with how the customer evolves. They change with how your product evolves. So they need to be very dynamic, and you need to pick up when they move between them. Maybe a customer has been doing really well for 12 months, all of a sudden becomes at risk. Maybe an at-risk customer, we turn things around, and then they become one of our best customers and an advocate and so on. So it's very dynamic, and it's not something you just push one way forward, linear in a linear way like you do a deal in a sales pipeline. Customer success processes, also something you need to assess around. So what process do we have? They should be designed around the customer, and they should be moving from a point where we are to another point where we want the customer to go. I think too little is done with processes in customer success. We tend to just react, but here is also something. There's usually big improvement when you start looking at this. Just 2 pointers there also that are sometimes forgotten. It's the things that the customer needs to do on their side, outside of the product. This is something that we tend to forget about when we design processes. And then, of course, there's things the customer needs to do inside the product as well that we probably are aware of, but we forget when we design the process for the customer. As an example, an onboarding, there is a lot to be done in onboarding usually. And we even if you have done a lot of onboardings, you usually try to. It's very common that you still run them a little bit without the structure. And there's a lot of things that can speed up things and improve for you as a customer success manager with the good process here. And also, if you can add the element where you bring the customer in and you hand out things and collaborate with the customer and get them also to feel accountable for keeping the timeline. A lot has been won in the process, and also with the structure, you can also start measuring how long are our onboardings, when are we done, and how much effort does it take from our side. That's also something to look into. Okay, back to the assessment summary. So, what are my priorities? How is business? What is the customer portfolio breakdown? What needs to happen in health, in goal setting? What needs to happen in processes? Again, an example here. We use this prospect in CRM. Churn is too high. They have 12% churn. And the reason for this is that they reached them too late. They firefight instead of reaching them earlier and turning things around. So they need to get these earlier signals. That's a priority. And they need to have a process for restarting poor health customers, basically. Another thing from this case is that the onboarding is a black box, so they need to make it more efficient and measurable. And both these things, two insights from this is, of course, we need to make this visual. We need to help ourselves here to see these early signals. And if we can improve this onboarding process, we will free up more time for us. So that was my priority part. Moving into the last one, which is action. So how do we get from here to where we want to be? We know the priorities, we know what business we're in. Now it's time to set up an action plan. And I think this is where a lot of our ambition drowns in the day-to-day. So everything can't be a priority. That's, of course, how it is. So if we want to do an improvement here, we need to, something else has to go. And if we add things to our priority list, we probably need to put something out. And you usually, we probably need to motivate why we should not be doing some stuff. And a great way to look at this depends, of course, if you're heading up a team or if you're heading up, if you're just a customer success manager. But you should look at your week and maybe assess last week or 2 weeks back. What have I been spending my time on? Do an inventory of things coming into your inbox, things that you need to take care of, and that basically eats up in your calendar. Because if you want to make room for these priorities, you probably need to clear out some stuff. And some things to do here is, first of all, you need to check how much time everything takes. And usually we underestimate how much time it takes to do certain things. It's very good to keep like an activity log. What do we spend time on? Check what you did last week, but keep tracking that. And another thing is that we need to build a case around this. Okay, if I'm not supposed to be doing other things, what value will I bring in by doing what I want to do, basically? So just saying I'm too busy, it's not going to be enough internally. You need to back that up with some data as well. What we want to get to is where we are on top of things, and we know our priorities. We can work through all the things that come at us and get a high output from this work week we have. And to get there, we need to improve things. We have the priorities from the part 2 here. And the way to implement these are what we call the success sprints. And these are what we mean. Some of you will of course be very familiar with this. Sprints, we break things down in 2 weeks. You can do maybe 7 per quarter, and you can build them around 1 or 2 of these key results we want to achieve. And it can be used for customer success teams, of course, but you can also use it for teams around customer success if you have an operational team or you have a product team working closely as well. And these sprints are things you do in addition to the regular work, because otherwise, I mean, no one can clean their schedule to do these things. So you need to do these on top of. Just a rough, like a guideline, maybe 25% can be spent on these, or 5 or 10. The most important thing I would say with these success sprints is to get going and to do some of these improvements that you have on your priority list. And you can, of course, if you're a manager, you can set I mean, we've seen people do bonuses or extra for achieving the success sprints. But that's aside, I think it's most important to get them in and start working with them. So back to the action side of this self-assessment, we have the priorities. How do we realize the priorities from the second part? And again, with the same example here, they need to set off more time to proactive work with these to reduce churn, basically. They can back this up because they know that they have a certain amount of churn, and if they would spend more time proactively working on them, they could reduce this, and that would mean money in ARR, and that should be able to support some more resources. They also wanted to start measuring onboarding and improve that. And that's also something they can do in these sprints. So they can break these things down in 7 sprints over each sprint being 2 weeks. And they can start doing this next quarter. And when you start working with this, what we see is that usually you're too ambitious. You want to do too many things in these sprints. It's more important to break it really down and make some improvements, some real breakthroughs in how you work by breaking them really down. It's better to do a few, maybe even less than 7 in a quarter or 2 in a quarter, whatever you have. The key thing here is to get going with these improvements, because that's going to make the difference and move things. So this is the self-assessment, what my business assessment, my priority assessment, and my action assessment. So all in all, you get a quite good picture of where you are, both as a customer success manager and also as a team lead or a head of or a CCO or a CEO, whatever level you're on. It's a quite simple thing to do. And I've seen really good results from working with this. Of course, this is just the beginning. And speaking of beginning, if you want to do more on this, we have 2 programs starting, one in April for customer success managers, one in May for heads of customer success. Here we will do a lot more work. There is a lot of content in this, but we will go deeper in these programs to go through how to set things up and how to really work with these things. So recommend you to check these out if you haven't been on them already. Then we have a huge announcement. Save the date for September 7th in Stockholm. We will bring everyone in customer success together. It's going to be a huge day, full with keynotes. It's going to be a breakout session with workshops. It's going to be networking. And we are gathering everyone in customer success in Northern Europe, in the Nordics, for a full day physical event to meet, to network, to get more done together, basically. So check that out. You will get an email invitation soon for this big thing. We're on time. We have some questions. I will take them now. If you want to drop out, thanks a lot for joining. I'll answer questions in the end here. Yes, you will get the content, you will get the presentation. We will also send you some bonus material as well, but thanks, Paul. Yes, you will get it. So thanks a lot, everyone. I think that was the last question, and see you soon.